Well, greetings everybody and welcome to the Patron and Members Live. Excuse the funny old lighting that we're seeing here because I realize that this cabin is not particularly designed very well for, basically for live streams and lighting. Anyway, lots of you joining, so thank you very much. Now, just a few words about the Wi-Fi. So I'm trying a new thing with my mic. It doesn't look very glamorous. On all the tests I did, of course, it was fine. Today, it's been a bit more erratic. What I realized is Starlink actually works better when you're at sea than when you're in port, right? In Ibiza this afternoon. So when all the checks I did, the audio is pretty good. The video kind of drops in and out. So hopefully that all works fine. So here I am in my cabin. One of the things I realized with the Haven is everywhere's really dark. So the cabins are dark. The lounge is dark, the restaurant's dark. They're ready to go in for kind of dark and moody lighting. Anyway, so thanks for joining. As I said, hopefully the Wi-Fi will keep going. I do actually have another live tomorrow, which is a more general Q&A live. So if you want to join, if you're a real sucker for that, then join me as well. So maybe you want to have a quick squid-see around my cabin, if I do that without losing the connection. So that's the cabin. Little seating area, dining area there. I won't take you on a tour of the bedrooms and so on. Maybe we can do that a bit later. So let's get into the questions. There's loads and loads of questions. So maybe I'll do it by doing questions. And then I'll come back and give you a more general stuff based on how we go. We'll go up to an hour, depending on whether you have had enough or we run out of questions. So Mike's asked a lot of, Mark has asked a lot of questions around the Haven. So maybe I'll tackle the Haven part first. And we've got some questions about some group cruise stuff and so on and so forth. So quite a few about group cruise, so we'll get into that as well. So Mark, I'll bring up all of Mark's questions. Some of you may have already seen them. So good to see you here, Mark. Thus far, from your personal perspective, how does the totality of the Haven premium experience, cabin, service, food, all of it, match up with an ultra-luxury small ship? Are the other characteristic benefits of the larger ship enough to compensate for the many large ship disadvantages? And thirdly, if your business is communicating a broad market survey and had to decide on another, which experience would you choose for you and for Mark? So let's talk about the Haven. So obviously I will do more, as I mentioned with the mailing I sent out, I will do more of a kind of a pros and cons of the Haven. I wanted to just give it a bit more time. So I basically had 5 nights on board. I had another 5 nights to go. So it's quite a good kind of midpoint check-in. So in terms of the Haven overall, there are, like many things in life, there's pros and cons. So actually, from making a video perspective, a little bit to Mark's point, talking about the Haven is quite a good one to make a video about because you've got those kind of highs and those lows. So maybe I will start with the things that I think work, and then I'll talk about the things that don't work. Now, those of you who've watched Ben and David's video, they were on the maiden voyage. They raised some issues, some of which I agree with, some of which I think are more a function of the maiden voyage. So the first of all, the plus side is the actual area. Although I mentioned it was kind of dark, I think it's actually a very beautifully done area. So it's at the rear of the ship, and you basically have cabins. Like I'm on deck 12, and then the lounge is up on deck 16, and the restaurant's up on deck 16. But you have it's all access controlled when you come in. It's interesting because even the carpets change from sort of jazzy carpets, which have little arrows, triangles pointing to the front of the ship and so on, to much more kind of designer, if that's the right word, carpet. So you enter the space and it feels very different. The decor is very different. I really like this cabin. Now, and it's not going to be to everyone's taste, but it's a good size. It's actually not kind of oversized like my equivalent cabin, I had an owner suite as well, was on Royal Caribbean. So it's not kind of oversized. It's kind of quite a good size. What I really like about it is it has a double bed on a wooden base rather than 2 beds pushed together. So actually it's very comfortable because it's built as double bed, double mattress. And I've had the most amazing sleeps here. I think overall it's quiet. I do hear people next door when they're playing music. I guess they play it through the television. I do hear that, so that's not great. but not really loud. But you know, I'm obsessed with noise. So, but overall, it's incredibly quiet. I've had the most incredible sleeps here. You know, great bedding. So the quality of stuff is really, really high. So I think this feels very kind of luxurious. You have the dedicated lifts, which are key controlled, which are fantastic because you can whisk up and down without having to sort of go to the main lifts, which are actually not. There's a lot of lifts. So that actually works pretty well, actually getting around. I haven't been that thing I was on Royal Caribbean, stopping at every floor. So up in the lounge itself, I think it's a nice space. I did post a little quick video of that on Instagram. A lot of people was more divisive. Again, it's quite a dark space. It's got lots of seating areas, a big concierge area. So it has all the elements to it. It has a very large restaurant, both indoors and outdoors, and then it has a 2-level outdoor deck. The lower level is where people under 16 can go, so families can go, kids can go. The one up above is for 16 plus. So the space itself is very nice. However, there's a couple of issues that, in terms of execution, that I think let it down from a premium experience. And I actually haven't used the lounge very much. Unlike when I've even been, say, on Holland America, you know, when I've been in a suite and had the Pinnacle Lounge, or any of the other lounges, you know, retreats. You usually go more ship than a ship, but even literally lounges which are not ship within a ship, because they do this bizarre thing where they do not have a tea and coffee station and snacks. They have a bar, but they don't do tea and coffee. So, and I think Benedict picked that up. So, you know, it's not a place where people go and congregate. When I was on Holland America, even in Pinnacle Lounge, it's quite a social space because people pop in for a coffee or a soda or something, and there's, you know, and there's all snacks and stuff. They don't have that there. So what I actually do when I want like a drink, I mean, I've got a coffee machine here, but if I want in a more social space, they have the observation lounge, which is on deck 17 in front, which is actually a beautiful lounge, a very nice lounge, where they have tea, coffee, snacks most of the day. That's what they do, the afternoon tea stuff. So I wanted a coffee. I asked the other day because I just wanted to know. And if you want to have a coffee in the lounge, they charge you for a coffee, unless you've got the premium drinks package. But then they go into the restaurant, into the kitchen, and make the coffee there, and then bring it out. But they charge you for it. So people don't hang out. So people hang out at the bar maybe, but they don't just hang out. So actually, it's not a very sociable space. You know, as you know, I'm not one to sit at the bar. So I found that I actually posted a video where people were talking about where is everybody? And everybody, because they don't really kind of use the space. So that's one thing I think is a pity. You know, I do think it's a real big miss. So, you know, on Regent, you've got Coffee Connections, or you've got Seabourn Square. I can't remember the art. I've gone to the Silversea one's called Markle Note. It's called the art. It's called the art room, the art club. Anyway, you know, so you don't have a space like that. I found very bizarre that you can go somewhere else in the ship, which is not Haven, and do that. The second thing is with the restaurant, is they have changes. So it's the same menu for breakfast, which you'd kind of expect, same menu for lunch every day, and exactly the same menu for dinner. So the menu, you know, literally, like I'm on here for 10 nights. I could have everything on the menu at least once. The food is pretty good, you know, but, you know, I'm actually planning to go and eat in the main dining room, partly because there's some very beautiful, the Hudson's is a very beautiful room, but actually the menu is much more interesting. It's much bigger, and it's more varied, and it changes every day, you know, obviously the classics or whatever. So I find this very bizarre in a premium space, which is very costly. It's costing me as much, at least I need to look at it properly, as going on Regent with all the bells and whistles included. So I found that kind of strange that the menu doesn't change. I think Benedict would have picked up as well. Really, really strange, actually. And then there's it's about little detail things. So, for example, I like poached eggs, but for breakfast or pancakes. But every morning I ask for poached eggs, soft poached eggs, and I say, please don't give me potatoes, because they have these little fried potatoes. And every time I've asked them not to bring potatoes, it always comes with potatoes, because clearly that's what the kitchen does. They do poached eggs and they put the potatoes on. You know, if I want salmon, I have to go and fetch it from the little buffet area that they have. It doesn't put the salmon. So it's just little bits like that. Small things, for example, they have these very beautiful designer railings in the sort of the dressing room, or whatever you want to call that, the walk-in closet. but it's very beautiful sort of rectangular ones. But the coat hangers don't really fit very well because it's a round coat hanger. So it's just those little bits of detail. So, but I think it's a very beautiful space. The deck is great. There's lots of space, really, really comfortable seating spaces, really comfortable. Lounges, little day beddy things, little plunge, infinity pool. So it's a very beautiful space. The other thing which is very interesting, and it's always very important, and it comes back to the point, Mark, you're asking about ultra luxury small ships, is it was more of an issue on Royal Caribbean, but it is an issue here, but less of an issue because of the time of year, is this ship and the haven will attract families. So there are quite a lot of families, not lots, there's a couple of families on here, mostly with young kids. There are some who've got teens. But the restaurant does this very strange thing. This is about detail again. So they have in the Haven restaurant, you've got one area which is kind of almost a separate area. It's almost like they could close it off if they wanted to. So, and then they have the more open area. But what they do is they don't sort of make that a family area. So when you go to breakfast or you go to dinner, they sort of put one family with crying children here in that space, and they'll put another family with crying children or toddlers running around there. So instead of creating what I think would be more sensible is have maybe a family space, because they can quite easily, and then you can have more of an adult space. So it's those sort of things that I find just a little bit strange, but the overall experience is great. I like the ship a lot, which I think helps enormously. I do feel this feels very plush, but I feel I'm paying quite a lot of money for stuff that I'm not necessarily using. So, for example, for lunch, I'm going to the Indulge Food Hall rather than have the same menu here. Now, the Indulge Food Hall is a fantastic concept. For those of you who don't know it, it's a new concept on the Prima ships, which is basically, it's similar to Virgin. I mentioned that in the thing. It's these little, so you've got like a tapas station, an Indian station, a sort of a Texas barbecue station, sort of a noodly Asian station. You sit down wherever you are and you can order off the tablet and they bring it to you. The food there is really great. So I think, a lot of it is around, to Mark's point, a lot of it is really around, if you want a large ship experience, this is, if you want to, this is not about, I don't think it's, and Mark and I have had this discussion, I think separately as well, sort of on Patreon, but I think, you're coming on here because you want the big ship experience. You want to go and see Beetlejuice. You want to go and have, all the, the go-kart tracks and the slides and all that sort of stuff. It's not, it's because you want that experience, but you want a way of escaping it. I noticed the Wi-Fi dropped a little bit there, so there might be a little jump there. So what would I choose? I would always go small ship, because I don't, that's what I would choose. I'm not sure would I bring Mark on here? I think he would like the casino. He would probably like the go-karting and stuff. So I think we probably would, but when it comes, because it's basically price comparable, because it's Viva, it's a new ship, I would go smaller. So hopefully that's answered that. I will come back to it. I'm sure there'll be other queries linked to that. And obviously I'm still documenting and sort of making notes and stuff. So I have probably not covered that as structured as you'd like it. Chris, you were considering building a list of group cruises being offered by YouTube with travel agents. Yes, good point, Chris. It's funny. It popped up on my to-do list and I keep pushing it back. Yes, my plan is to post that. And I do actually have it drawn up. I just haven't posted it. So yes, the idea is to post that and do that. So hopefully that will happen certainly before the end of the year. Once I get back, I will tidy it up and get it posted, because I've come across a couple of other YouTubers actually, even on this trip, that I've seen posting about group cruises. So Chris asking a question, and Paul and Carol are here as well. Paul and Carol, of course, like me, are up on Monday for a Wave Award. We're one of the finalists. I'm not going because I'm here. I think Paul and Carol probably not going, from what I understand, based on their travel plans. But I'm like 99.9999999%. This will be the 6th year in a row where I don't win a Wave Award, because I told them I wasn't here, and it was like, silence. Normally, if you're not there and you've won, they say, is this going to be somebody there who could pick up an award? So I think we can pretty sure I haven't won that. Hopefully, Paul and Carol, we're rooting for you. Anyway, let's have a look. So Chris, we're on your September group cruise. Very good. I found a great flight to Boston. I'm a little nervous about booking this early. We're flying in on the 17th in anticipation of group activities. And Paul and Carol talking about arriving early. So my plan is also to fly in on the 17th. And Sarah, travel agent Sarah, is also planning to fly on the 17th. In fact, I hope Sarah's booked my flights. We did have a discussion. Like, she gave me quotes and I gave her timing. So I was coming on an early morning flight, be there about lunchtime, and actually flying back the day afterwards. So just in terms of that, I've had some to and fro with, it's definitely going to happen. The tour they're working on at the moment, the plan that they've given us, Chris, their aim is to have all the details before the end of this month. So I can update everyone first week of December, hopefully, certainly before everyone starts closing down for Christmas stuff, and certainly before I head away for Christmas on the 15th of December. So the plan is now, that's the first plan. So the tour, where we will also find out what the pricing is. I'm trying to push them to keep the pricing as low as they possibly can. And a lot of that hinges on how many of their partners kind of contribute. I think one of the guys at Meet Boston was lobbying quite hard to do a combination, like almost a foodie related tour, and show some of the variety of different cultures and cuisines and stuff, with the idea that when we get to the reception at the end, it's sort of like almost the culmination of that. So it might be dessert focused stuff. Then other people in Meet Boston were quite keen to push, again, that sense of seeing the variety of cultures that exist within Boston. I said to them, obviously we're coming as cruisers. We have a lot of interest in cruising and ships and stuff. So maritime history and stuff would obviously, if there's anything linked to that. So we all know that more in a couple of weeks. The other thing that they're working on, because I know a couple of you have been asking, is on hotel packages. So those of you who looked at hotels are quite expensive in Boston, and a guy called Michael is looking at talking to some hotel partnerships they've got. So hopefully we'll also have a couple of hotels with some packaged prices for those, and maybe some things bundled in those, maybe some dining or something or whatever. And again, hopefully we will have that by the end of the month. So in terms of flights, I booked my flight. So, I think I've booked my flight. Anyway, I've agreed with Sarah. I think it's booked. Flying in on the 17th. So I will also let people know when those hotels come out, which one I'm planning to stay at, because I know a couple of people have said, like, it'd be great, to stay at the hotel, and obviously budgets will vary. So hopefully, Paul and Carol, that's sort of answered your question. The reception in the evening, just to confirm, will be completely, there'll be no price for that. And what I've asked with the hotels, by the way, is a lot of people said, good accessibility for the port would be good, and also thinking about where is the venue for the reception, so people don't have to trek a long way from the hotels to the receptions. So that's that. But while we're talking group cruises, let me talk about group cruises. Chris asking another question about April group cruise. In fact, I've actually just sent an email now out to the April group cruise. I held back a little bit because there were some people probably having to cancel that. So unfortunately, they have had to cancel that. April's sort of ending up being a bit of a hectic month that's going on for people. Anyway, so in terms of the April cruise, it's a much smaller cruise. There are 35 people on that cruise, 5 from the UK, 1 from Holland, 1 from Germany, and the rest from the US. Quite a lot of solo travelers, like we do have on the group cruise in September. I think there's maybe like 11 or 13, if I remember correctly, solo cruises. So I'm also going to be thinking a little bit about how do we do stuff for solo cruises as well. So another question on the group cruise, Jeffrey. Do you happen to know for the September group cruise overnight in Quebec, can you normally come and go the entire evening, or does the port close? I don't know, Jeffrey, specifically for Quebec, but normally when I've ever been on overnights on any cruise, you're able to come and go through that whole period, and they normally man or person, whatever the right terminology is, have security so people can come and go all night. And the reason they also do that is because crew love being able to come and go. It's one of their few chances. They finish the evening shift or whatever, they can head out. So often, I know when I was on my last on my last trip in Japan, we had an overnight, and both of my cabin stewards were very hungover and feeling a bit sorry for themselves the next day because they'd headed out. Muman asking the question: has the entertainment gotten better for you? So those of you who haven't seen, I posted on Instagram. I was really looking forward to seeing Beetlejuice. It's a show that I've always wanted to see. I never got it hasn't come to the West End. When I've been in New York, I missed it because it just closed about a year or so ago when we were there. So I was really looking forward to seeing it. And the staging on here was amazing. Full effects, magic effects, a big monster coming in, incredible sets. Like, oh my goodness, how did they change the set so quickly? The curtain will come down, they do a bit of splab, open, set change dramatically. That really good, high quality cast. But I didn't enjoy the show. I thought the songs were a bit dire, and the storyline. I don't remember the film particularly, but because it'd be the story for the film, I was really disappointed. And I think it was an interesting choice. I feel like they haven't chosen a real crowd pleaser, because the audience after the first song whooped, and then after it was like very polite clapping. Even at the end, I think one lady in the audience stood up. Maybe she was someone's mum or something. But it was very so. We've had two very okay guest entertainers. We had a magician who I feel like can do all the magician tricks now. I've been on too many cruises, I realized. They all do the same tricks. They all tell the same jokes. They all do the same stuff. The thing with the squares and the numbers, and someone chooses a number and all that stuff. So they had that. Then they had a hypnotist last night who I went mostly just because I thought I'm going to video a little bit at the beginning, because you can't video shows. And actually it did suck me in. Hypnosis is really freaky, I decided. Then I haven't spent a lot of time yet I've seen a few singers in the atrium, which I thought were okay. But I haven't yet been, the comedy club is absolutely ram full. So I need to go earlier to get into those shows. And then they have oh my God, I've got the name, Poorhouse, Sid Norman's Poorhouse, which is also really popular, where they have some great musicians. Tonight, because we've got an overnight, we're doing a late night, they're doing a jam in the theatre, and then I've got Icons, which I haven't seen yet. That's coming on there. I haven't also stayed up late enough yet to see the theatre convert into the nightclub, but I will stay up maybe tonight. Sad. So it's like 10:15 they do it, where it converts. Oh, the other night was 11. Okay, so it's quite late. So yeah, just to warn you, that I mentioned, as Sarah saying, it has frozen at a couple of points. Hopefully the audio is okay. I did notice it did drop at one point. I think my learning is Starlink works best at sea. I was actually talking to one of the guys who follows me after the teppanyaki the other night, and he's an IT guy, and he was talking about how he does all his stuff when we're at sea because he finds it works better. He also reminded me of a very good tip, which I'm going to build into one of my future videos, around setting up Wi-Fi hotspots to when you only got access to one device. So I'll come on to that. Mark making the point, as he's working, can't avoid the ship. I think, Mark, I think if you like a small ship experience, I do not see this as an alternative to small ships. And it's good to know that. Thanks also, Mark, making the point about the access. I haven't done enough of these, and I will start doing more of these, although the numbers aren't big, but I think it's a big plus. And I know Paul and Carol, certainly for their patrons, are have been started to do very regular live streams, and I believe they're very popular. So I will steal their good ideas, as it were. So must be me, or more likely Spectrum. I think that's the thing about the Wi-Fi. Cruising for one in my life, I only have pros. Let's have a look. Okay. SL. So I'm going to have a slug of water. One of the perks, I think actually I discovered one of the perks in the Haven, and I think it's the Haven. I need to separate a little bit because I booked and I got the all at sea. So I need to separate what's Haven perks. But you get what they said, I think it was 6 bottles of water. Well, they call them bottles of water, but they're these Tetra Paks. But I've noticed as I use them, they sort of refill up again. The other thing they do, by the way, which is amazing, is the most amazing fruit basket. I think it's the best fruit basket fruit bowl. And they replenish it constantly because they have amazing fruit on here, and I eat a lot of the fruit, and every day they top it up. Unlike on Royal Caribbean, where once I ate the fruit, that was me done. The only thing my butler hasn't figured out is I don't like bananas. As a little trivia question, I might do a trivia question actually. That would be a good thing to do on the group cruises, a trivia question. So here's a little insight for those here. I think there's probably only 2 things I don't eat. Probably more. One of which is bananas. I cannot eat bananas, and I can't cope with the smell of bananas. There's some deep meaningful thing in my childhood. And scallops. So there we are. So anyway, SL, got distracted there. Have you been able to explore Ibiza town today within September? No, I didn't actually get off in Ibiza today. We got here at lunchtime. We're leaving at 9. It was very nice and sunny outside, and I actually used it as an opportunity to video some of the decks because we had a morning sailing in, and then actually there's some quite good shots with water and stuff. So because some of the ports we've been in have been like not very nice, like Marseille and stuff. So I did it as a sort of a video day and sort of a catch-up day. So no, I didn't go to export. Also, I thought we were going to be closer. Talking to my chemistry, I thought we were going to be much closer to stroll in, but we're not. I'm trying to figure out, I was last in Ibiza when I was in my sort of clubbing days, when I came, of course, and did all the big all-night nightclubs here. So, but it's, now that's not what I'm going to do. Mark asked me what's the square footage of the cabin. Mark, I have no idea. That's a really good question. I need to be more up on that. I'm terrible at looking at square footage of cabins, and I need to get better on that. So I don't know, but I will check. I will check for you, Mark. Mooman, how long will you be down under, and will you be doing a vlog on the train tour? So I will be down under for just over, I think it's about 3 weeks. Head there on the 15th, but we're spending, in down under, not quite 3 weeks. We're away for 3 weeks, just over 3 weeks, but we're spending some time in Singapore on the way down because I love Singapore. And I convinced Mark they should really see Singapore, so I had an excuse to go to Singapore. I can say that because he won't be joining this one. So we spent some time in Singapore. So we're in Sydney for a couple of days, north of Sydney for a while, then doing the train. So I probably will do a vlog on the train tour. I was toying with basically taking a complete holiday break and not doing anything at all. But I suspect I will want to do a vlog of the train tour. So minimum, I will do kind of little short stories and stuff, but I probably will do. And I probably also should do, because then I can charge it to tips of travelers, and the tax man will give me some benefit from doing it as a work trip. Sherry, hi there, Sherry. Good to see you. Did you say nothing but alcoholic drinks in the lounge? Charge for coffee drinkers? Why? Okay, so they charge. They do charge for alcoholic drinks. So you've got to have a drinks package. So I didn't explain it very well. So you don't get, there's no free drinks in there. So you need a drinks package. Although interestingly, when I asked the barman for a Sprite Zero, Diet Sprite, he didn't want to see my card. So maybe they are included, which I'll double check. But you need a drinks package. So drinks are not included. So it's unlike, come back to Mark's question. So it's unlike if you're going on Regent or Seabourn, Silver Sea, drinks are not included. Now you can often, they do a lot of those promotions where they bundle in free at sea. But I think I find it really, I'm probably going on about this a bit, but that lounge is quite a beautiful lounge, I think, really nice seating. But you just don't hang out there because you can't just go and have a coffee there and start talking to people and stuff. Like I see up in the observation lounge and people just start chatting to each other. So that's kind of strange. Mark making the point that they found it strange, because that was a point that Ben and David also made. So it's not. So it's not, and I know you've probably heard some of the comments. So I might be repeating myself. So I don't see this as an alternative. I mean, the more I've done these ship within the ships this year, I've decided it's not as an alternative. It's very much around wanting a big ship experience with some escape and some pampering. I mean, there's some big perks, some big pluses. So, for example, like with the shows, you don't have to worry about getting in. So the popular shows are normally sold out because you just say, I want to go to see, whatever the show's on. They escort you down. They whisk you through. You have reserved seating, good seats. So it's those kind of things that they do. In the port, you go there and they will take you out, whisk you through, so you don't have to hang around and get in, hang around with crowds or whatever. But it's and you get lots of priority access to stuff. But it's definitely, I think people that like a big ship experience and want all the choice they want and the size of the deck and they want that stuff would not enjoy a small ship, and vice versa. It's kind of interesting. And I need to probably verbalize that a bit better. It's very strange the menus stay the same. Let's have a look. The menu thing I do find really, really weird, because I originally thought, okay, maybe the menu doesn't change in the main dining room either, but it does. It does change. And the menu sounds really good, actually. And certainly they have two main dining rooms. And the Hudson is beautiful. It's like a sort of a U-shaped one with big chandeliers. It's really, really beautiful. And they have no, by the way, they have no dining times. Everything is anytime dining. So you book your time. Barbara, we're on the Viking South American tour in December and really appreciate your advice and videos from your Holland America trip. Took advice about booking the ship excursions. You made me happy. Oh, that's great to hear. Yeah, that's good. For those who don't understand this, what I discovered on that South American trip is you need to book excursions well ahead because there's not a lot of choice and they go really, 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 really quickly. Hetty's here. Good to see you, Hetty. Sherry, unfortunately missing the group cruises. So let's have a look. I'm looking, I probably should have said right question because I'm looking at the chatting, which is some very good chatting going on. So I'm being caught up in the chatting as well. Oh, okay. Sherry, here's a question. Very good question. That makes it very easy. Have you gone to any specialty restaurants? And if so, how much extra were they? And was the cost worth it? So Sherry, it's very interesting because my plan was, because of the cost of coming in the Haven, my plan wasn't to then layer more cost on top, going to specialty restaurants. However, because when I booked, they did that free at sea kind of bundle. I get to go to 2 specialty restaurants. So I went to the teppanyaki, which cost $56, or was it 50? It was either $54 or $56. I can't remember offhand for that. And then I'm going to Food Republic, which is sort of like an Asian fusion, kind of an Asian menu. So they do sushi, but some Vietnamese and that kind of stuff as well, which is my second one. And it's going to be interesting because the teppanyaki has a fixed charge, whereas all the others are a la carte. So I haven't yet found out, do I get $56 of credit, or does it just mean that I can order those? Most people have told me that I've met on here a huge amounts. Like, I'm surprised how many people on here who watch the channel. It's really interesting. It's sort of, where you sort of find your people, as it were, like people who watch me. A lot of people have come up to me on here. Like, it's really bizarre. On Royal Caribbean, hardly anybody did. On here, I keep bumping into people every day who watch it. Anyway, everyone I've met told me I should go to Cagney's, which is a steak restaurant, which I think is ends up being about the same. My problem with steak restaurants, and I said the same, you'll see in my region video, which comes out next week. Is it coming next week? Yeah, next week. Is the problem with the steak restaurants, I think they all end up being the same, whether they're on Regent or whether they're on or Caribbean or whatever. But anyway, so they're around that price. A lot of them are a la carte prices. So I feel like when you've paid this much, I didn't really think I wanted to use them that much. But now that the menu in the main restaurant is the same, I feel like I need to go and do them more. So that's an interesting dilemma. Is like, the menu is not appealing enough to want to just only go into the Haven restaurant. It's sort of, that's I think that is a downside. I mean, not that the food's not good. The food's really good. It's just like you want change and difference and stuff. So that's that's interesting. Yeah, I'll make the point on the wave one, since we're amongst friends here. So for those who know, so the Wave Awards is to go to the Wave Awards. You have to book it even if you're a finalist, you have to book a ticket. And they offer you, as a finalist, they offer you 50% off. But I still think it was like about, important Carol probably can remember better than I can. I think it was like £200 or maybe more than that to go. And it's interesting because when they first did it, the first couple of years, they didn't charge finalists. You were invited, and then they only started a couple of years ago charging the finalists to go. But the Wave Awards absolutely 100% is a money project. It's run by World of Cruising, so they, which is a magazine. That's why they want everyone's email addresses to enter, so that they can build their mailing list to obviously promote and sell stuff to cruisers too, because they get commission on sales of that. But the award ceremony is a big money spinner. I think I'm right in saying, but I'll double check this, is on some of the awards I know cruise lines have to pay to enter, and I can't remember if that's true of the Wave Awards or not. But the tables are really expensive. It is absolutely a profit center. And there's a whole series of, I'm going to say Wave of Awards. There's a whole wave of awards in cruising, which are really, money-making things. So there used to be a Cruise International Awards as well. I think Cruise International magazine, I don't know if they closed down or whatever, but it was the same. Songs that were a bit dire. Okay, so this is a good point around. So Prima and Viva and the new ship that's coming out. Oh my goodness, I forgot the name of the new ship. They just announced it last week, which is a slightly bigger version of this. Have a very sort of different concepts. And as I said in the update that I sent out, it's almost the Virgin kind of concept, which is lots of small venues. And I will see, I'm trying, unfortunately, we haven't had a lot of sea days. We did a bit today because we only got here at 12 noon. And then we have, tomorrow we've got a bit of tomorrow we have an afternoon and a morning of sea day. So I'll get a better sense of how busy some of the venues get. But the venues are probably a little bit on the small side. I think the concept is lots of small venues to push people out. But the problem is, because the venues are quite dispersed, I'm not sure that people always know where the venues are. So, the ship is 3,900. Can go where that in. So they feel like the I'm going to call the Surfside, which is the buffet. I went there at lunchtime, and it was absolutely heaving. There's not a lot of places to sit, so people sort of spill out outside. But what they have here is, and you might have seen in the update, is they've got the someone called it the pimped up promenade deck, which is where a lot of the space goes. So like another of the free restaurants, which I've forgotten the name of it, which is for your burgers and stuff. There's a lot of seating outside. The Indulge Food Hall, lots of seating outside. So so a lot of the idea is this is clearly a warm weather ship, and that is you push a lot of people outside when you're in the Caribbean. Now, because the weather's been so here, people haven't really want to sit outside with Indulge Food Hall. So the other day when we were at Marseille or somewhere, it was absolutely heaving because they wanted to be inside because it was raining, and they hadn't got on tours because it was raining. So I'm going to do much more investigation at night. Like even the theater seems relatively small, which is why I guess they put on so many stuff. So I haven't felt it's overly cramped, but I think that's a point that people make. So I'm going to do a little bit more investigation. Jeff making the point about the Wi-Fi hotspot. I'm sure probably, but I'm not sure. My IT guy that I spoke to reckons they shouldn't really know if you don't, because I think you have to stay there. Some other people don't use scallops. That's very good. So look forward to the group cruise trivia. We'll start writing notes. Yes, maybe I'll start weaving in on some of these little spoilers, so people who come get little spoilers thing. Laura B, late to the live, never too late, you can always watch it back. So Mark, it's owners. It's the owners suite, so sort of the middle of the pack. Let's have a look. See, so I'm looking through the Mark means when I don't have to think about escaping on vacation. So, Division Treasurer, do you have a seaborne cruise in the future? Also, your opinion on the large ship. So, I have a seaborne next year, but it's actually on the expedition ship on pursuit in Australia again, actually on the Kimberley. But I have been on their bigger ships. I've been on Encore and Ovation. I've been on Encore twice and Ovation once since 2019. So the last time I was on seaborne was in 2021. Greek Islands cruise. So I actually quite like their bigger ships. I mean, they're 600, is it 600 or 640, if I remember correctly. I mean, obviously it's a different experience to their smaller ships that they're sort of phasing out and getting rid of largely. But I found it quite a nice size. You know, it's smaller than the Regent ships, which is 700 and something. And I did actually feel a difference going on Regent versus going on Seabourn, for example. The Seabourn ship did feel much smaller. Regent felt actually quite big. Obviously, it's a huge amount of space and you really spread out, but the ship kind of felt so much bigger just because, you know, 100 and something, 140 people extra or something. So I like the ships. I like the layout. I think it's a very good layout, enough choice. I love the sushi restaurants on there a lot. I really like the sushi restaurants, you know, a lot. There we are. Thank you. The 10-day Kimberley, Australia in July. So yes, the ship within a ship is very different. Laura got the email. Got the email. So that was your excuse for being late. I think you were probably reading that. Here we go. Thank you, Paul and Carol. 240 is the half price ticket. So for Paul and Carol, that would have been really expensive. Plus you're staying in your Ritz or wherever you'd be staying. So yeah, so Sherry, it's interesting. Wouldn't you see the location of the food venues? We look at the diagram of the ship every time. It's interesting because one of the things I wrote in my notes, so I don't think they do a very good job at explaining the ship because, you know, die-hard Norwegian travelers, which I met quite a lot of, you know, if you've been on Encore, there's a certain layout to those ships that people are used to. So it's bugging me. I can't remember the name of that venue, which they've moved to the side. Anyway, you know, unlike Encore and stuff, it's overlooks sort of the atrium and stuff. So people kind of know where stuff is. But this is a very different layout. So I don't think they do a good enough job. So they did actually find in the cabin quite a nice little, what's it called, deck plan, which even more reinforced my point that I made in the note about a big Virgin. It looks the same. Artists did it as they did the Virgin deck plan. But anyway, there it explains and it lists sort of the food. But the problem is, now maybe I'll show you. Excuse me, I'm going to go out of frame for a second and just grab the daily program. So I feel like they just don't do a particularly good job. They could even if they did something on the, you know, a video or something. So they do list. Now this is probably not going to show up terribly well, but they do list sort of like you know, complimentary, and then the other dinner options. So it's sort of listed there, but it's not like I'm not sure how much people then dive into the stuff because, you know, people sort of stumble across stuff and know stuff, and you sort of expect, okay, there's the buffet and stuff. Yeah, but you've got, so let's have a think. The local, that's what it's called. So you've got the local, which is on deck 8. You've got the Surfside Grill, which is deck 17 at the back. Then you've got the Surfside Cafe in front of the deck 17. Got Indulge back on deck 8. I realize we've also might have had a drop there briefly. It's a bit like I don't find Virgin Voyages that intuitive. It was very interesting. It's the first time for a long time, other than Virgin actually, that I've been on a ship that I didn't find intuitively just clear around finding my way around. So for example, I'll give you a small example. The casino normally, because I've covered this in my casino, ships normally put a casino slap bang in front of the theater because that's where you're going to get evening traffic. They actually have they don't have it slap bang by the theatre. They have it much more midships. Now it is, if you come out of one of the main dining rooms, you do sort of head through the casino, but the casino is not kind of in a classic high traffic area. The casino, I'm going to the theatre kind of thing. Stuff that if you cruise a lot, I think you sort of taking aboard. So I think that's partly why. And I did write down that like, I feel like they need to do a better job of explaining it. I think the other thing that is also interesting, why people don't find it, Sherry, is, you know, if you think about Princess when you think about most ships, around the atrium is normally where you then cluster your bars, your restaurants, and sometimes some of the entertainment. The atrium here, which is, I really like the atrium, but it has more, you've got your guest service, you've got Starbucks, one little bar downstairs, which seems to have been taken over by Portuguese or Spanish speakers, not because they I don't know, the music they're playing there seems to really pull the Spanish and Portuguese speakers in, but it's sort of it's like, so they're not kind of clustered around there. And again, I think people are sort of used to the atrium as sort of your little magnet for those. Magnet's the wrong word. Kind of they're clustered around there, and they don't have that on here, which is kind of interesting. Hetty, no, it is not part of the drinks package. It's a separate charge. So I do have my Starbucks every day, and it's an additional charge. Now, there is one of the drinks packages which does include Starbucks, which wasn't included in my, I keep on called have it all, in my All at Sea, everything at sea package. So it's not. So every morning the lady asks me to look at the card and it's not there. And you don't get credits, stars, no. And Jeffrey's saying the point is you kind of stumble across that. So Jolene, hi there. Yes, they do have digital deck plans. So they have the big screens where you can then put in where's an area you can put in and say I want to go to the nearest bathroom, or I want to find such and such a shop. So they do have those, but again, it's sort of like. I don't know that's obvious, again, because they sort of have the weather there, and I'm not sure it's really obvious that it's interactive. It probably took me a couple of days before I realized it was interactive. And I realized the other thing they do on those, by the way, which is pretty good, is in the evenings, they'll show you the capacity in the main dining rooms. So they'll show there how busy Hudson's, the Commodore, is it called the Commodore? What's it called? The Commodore room, yeah. Hudson's the Commodore room. It'll show you how full that is, and stuff like that on there. So I did feel that but the other thing we do get, you have the app, but you do get the daily that's the Champagne Art Auction. You do get the daily program printed as well. By the way, just as an aside, I went to the, if you've seen on Instagram, you've seen posted, I went to the art auction thing today because I wanted to video it. I realized I've got lots of footage of artist plays, but I haven't got good footage to use in my videos of an actual art auction. And they took over one of the main dining rooms on the lower level, the Commodore room, pushed all the tables to the sides, and it was absolutely jam-packed. Now, I know some people are there for the champagne, but oh my goodness, it was absolutely just jam-packed. They started with an item which was $22,000, not surprisingly. No one bought that one, but I think it was interesting because they make a point subtly that they're basically selling prints or numbered prints and stuff, but they sort of position it as but when you buy a Rolex watch, they might make 10,000 Rolex watches of a certain design, but it's still worth a lot. So they use that little analogy. But what is interesting, they start by auctioning off these sort of like big classic proper inverted commas, if that's the right word, artwork. I mean, they had a Picasso earthenware thing or something, but I think that's to set people's mind up that this is proper, genuine art, and then they basically get into the other stuff. So Claudia asking, I love what's in port. I use it a lot, and I've generally found it is pretty good. So I use that a lot. And in fact, when we got into Ibiza today, and then my original plan, as I mentioned, it wasn't to go out, and I was like, maybe I will go out, but I'm not sure what's here. And my first thought was I'm going to go and look at what's in port. Mooman, have I made it on the water slides or the racetrack? I haven't. I really want to do the racetrack. The racetrack hasn't been massively busy because it's very long days in port, so I do want to use the racetrack. I've videoed it, so now I've got that done both at night and at day. And the water slides, it's been a little bit chilly, to be honest. They have been open more sort of in the evenings because we haven't had sort of sea days and a lot of people are out. So I do want to. I actually have, probably out of my window, I can see one of the slides. They have a slide which is similar to the ones they have. which looks quite terrifying, although there's a little clear section in it. And it made me think maybe I will try the slide, because this poor young lad in the clear section was bumping to try and go. So obviously when it hits the clear section, it slows you down. The fabric you slide down. So I thought actually I could do that because it's got these sort of effective brakes as you go down. So there you go. Oh, thank you, Laura. Aqua. That is that's the name of the new ship. It was very interesting because they do obviously have the future sales on here, and I've sort of been keeping an eye on it, and pretty much everyone's coming away with Aqua kind of little leaflets. So that that seems very, very, very popular. Sorry, Claudia. Let's see. America, Amsterdam. You warned self-exploring not possible. All ports. You recommend excursions for Puerto Chewbacca, Puerto Madryn, and Puerto. So in Puerto Chewbacca, I did an amazing tour, which was to view kind of a volcano, and then we went to some waterfalls, which I can't remember the name of, but I can probably look up in my notes, Claudia. So maybe actually, even if you drop me a note, just to remind me, I can't remember if you're on Patreon or on YouTube, member, but just send me a message, and I will confirm what that was. But favorite ones, we went out, we sailed. It was a boat trip on a boat, obviously, with an incredible view of like a volcano, and then we went to some amazing, beautiful waterfalls, and we did something else. I'm sure we did something else. Anyway, that was really good. Puerto Madryn, I don't remember. I don't think we went to Puerto Madryn that I remember. And Punta del Este, I can't remember what I did. But if you send me a little note, I will double check what I did in those different ports. And maybe we did go to Madryn. I just can't remember what excursion we did. But drop me a note and I will double check the ones that I did. Because I think I'm right. I'm guessing from what you said in the video, I didn't specifically talk about. About those. We've been saying that the slides and Racetrack and Bliss were open odd and limited hours. Yeah, it's interesting. I guess they're designed more for sea days, maybe. So the problem is they opened here mostly kind of at dinner time, and people came back from tours. They some long days. You got the odd Livorno, people going to Florence stuff. So long days, tours. So I went up because I wanted to video, and like no one's doing the racetrack. I'm going to be really bad at the racetrack because I'm a very slow driver. Mark originally, when I showed him that, because he would love the racetrack, he'd like go zooming around there. He actually banned me from going on it because he said I'll embarrass myself because I'll go too slowly. So I'm sort of determined I'll probably try and prove him wrong. So good. So let's have a look and see. So we're so let me. So I've got a real frog in my throat. Sorry about that. I'm probably hacking you there. That's interesting. Stop in French Guiana, they require yellow fever vaccine to get off the ship, and then no ship excursions. That's very interesting. I didn't know that. It's interesting. I got an email because I'm going to South Africa in end of January, and I got a email about vaccines and malaria and stuff. It's very interesting because I know the parts we're going. I guess it's a more general note. So it'd be interesting to see. I thought it's one of the things I always do is I always check the Foreign Office. I guess Sherry, US, I think I'm right saying. So the State Department, I guess, equivalent, because they're normally pretty good on what you absolutely have to have and haven't have. You know what I mean? Have and haven't had to have. Kathy, sorry. Are there other tour companies you like going to be in Rome for 2 days before Viking cruise? So Kathy, the three that I normally look at is Viator. They would tend to do specific, not literally cruise only ones. They're normally pretty reliable. And I always look at Shore Excursions Group and Venture Ashore. And I know that you're talking about they tend to link a lot to group cruises. The other one, which is depending on what you want to do, is I sometimes also look, although I haven't used them for a long time, is tours by locals, where as it says, local people offer various tours, and they're pretty good. at finding really kind of interesting tools, if you've got something that you're particularly interested in. The other thing I always often do, and I did this actually before my Amsterdam cruise, referring to the one earlier, is I joined the roll call for the cruise, and people are pretty good at recommending tours and tour companies, and even down to individual tour guides that they might have used when they've been there before. So that's also a good one to do. And I know certainly on Viking, people are very active on Facebook, and they're normally pretty active on those cruise critic groups. So that's another good way to get people who've they've been, because a lot of, particularly with Viking, a lot of like diehard kind of Viking people, and they keep they're pretty good. And some of what they do is that someone's organizing. They've like had a van with 8 people or 6 people, and they're looking for people to fill those up. So that's quite a good option. Yeah, that's a good one. Right, so we're heading now for an hour. So and I think probably based on the comments and questions, I think probably most people have asked what they want to ask on this one. So maybe I'll wrap up. If the question that you're ready for, if you're on, sorry, no, the Wi-Fi dropped there, I saw it drop there. If you're on YouTube, you'll leave a comment because they flag up any channel member that leaves a comment on anything. It flags up in a separate section, so I can answer you there as well. Or you can just email me at gary@tipsfortravelers.com, and I will answer those as well. Or of course, you can join the live stream tomorrow. That's interesting. I don't know whether you need. I don't think you need a license, because I think kids can go. I don't know how young it is, but I don't think you need a license to go on that direction. But that's a good point. I need to find out about that. Good question, Laura. I'm going to find out what the restrictions are for going on the go-kart. So thanks very much. I just want to say, I meant to say at the beginning, I really appreciate you being a patron and being a channel member. It's a huge privilege, and I really appreciate that. So thanks so much for joining me. Also, let me know if you enjoyed me doing these live streams, and I will start doing them sort of on a more scheduled basis. So take care, everybody, and I will now head off, decide if I'm going to go and have that same menu in the Haven or go somewhere different. Take care, everybody, and those of you, might see you tomorrow.